but I don't know. I can't blame the average tennis watcher or even the average sports fan for looking at all that has transpired in tennis and kind of thinking everybody's substances can't be contaminated. I don't know if that's like the football, baseball fan in me or whatever, but it's kind of like, ugh, you know.
I would
at a certain point, it's like, oh, another accidental contamination. At a certain point, it does sort of strain credulity. Even if
I would
it happens
agree with what you said earlier, though, Caitlin, about having a leader and also just like having more of a body that supports players like across both tours. And I think, tennis, it being an individual sport, it's really unique in the sense that players are so in charge of everything when it comes to their health and reporting those things. And they're traveling from, country to country. They might see different, doctors or have different physicians in different places. They're getting prescribed medication in their home country and then traveling with that. And those medications have different statuses in different countries. And one of the kind of trickier things, the ITIA suggests that players batch test all of their supplements. And that's not necessarily a really easy thing to do. So
it doesn't sound easy.
They're like the chemistry sets that they take on the road with their beakers.
Yeah, like how are you supposed to do that? And when you're an elite athlete and you're taking care of your body, taking supplements isn't doping. Taking supplements is something the average person does. When you're an elite athlete, it's even more important. So should the WTA and ATP have a communal store where they have batch tested products that are frequent supplements that players take, where they can buy those supplements from knowing that they aren't contaminated and they come from a source that the WTA and ATP have quote unquote approved or tested for. I think there just has to be more support for the players in this realm if the tests are as sensitive as we're kind of seeing that they are. And these things can happen to any person who goes into a CVS and buys melatonin. It could be contaminated. It's like, it kind of puts into perspective for the average person, what we don't 100% know always what we're taking. And that's a really difficult decision to make when you're a player on the road and you're playing in all these tournaments and you're trying to take care of yourself. So I just think there should be, kind of more of a system that takes care of folks and allows them to get access.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone suggest a communal store, sort of like a pre-approved
WTA.
Exactly. And, I think that's a brilliant idea because of how much onus is on these players. They're stressed, they're jet lagged, they're traveling, they're sending a teammate member out to a pharmacy maybe to get something because they're, chronic X, Y, or Z injury or virus has popped up again. And if at the very least, kind of similar to the way we see in other sports that have team doctors and team, training facilities, if, somebody were to test positive for something, you could kind of just keep it moving and say, well, it's, they were only taking things from this store. I'm going to also use this opportunity. And I realize we want to get onto the exciting realm of predictions, which I'll allow us to do very shortly, but I'm going to introduce an idea that, I've said before, and it makes everyone mad at me, which is why I think it's fun to discuss. I don't care about doping. I don't care at all about it.
That's an opinion I've seen quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
I get why in a sport like baseball or football or track and field, where the size, stamina, and strength is so foregrounded in the sport that taking performance-enhancing drugs is such an unfair advantage, it's almost criminal to sort of say, oh, this person is on the offensive line tackling somebody on the defensive line and can take their head off because they've been using giant muscle building steroids. Like, that does seem unfair. That seems bad, the way you hit a baseball out of the park, right? Tennis is so hard. Tennis is unbelievably difficult. Once you figure out how to hit the shots the right way, you still have to figure out how to contend a match, mentally stay in it, create the right tactics, stick to them, change them up if they're not working. And so for me, none of these things have ever felt that terrible. And I'm also somebody who's recreationally doped myself. It never made my tennis any better. Maybe it made my legs less sore, or, I was able to play a little longer.
Or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact is, tennis is just so hard. And so, yes, I think we should strive for fairness and equality. That's not exactly what we have now, and we should certainly create rules that try to get there. But also, at the end of the day, I care about this because it makes our sport look bad. I don't particularly care about it because I think anyone's cheating. I don't think they're cheating because I don't think it's that much help if you take something that has a little bit of something in it. You still got to hit that backhand on the line on, break point, right? And so for me, it's a little hard to get so upset about it because it just feels like it's I don't know. It feels like it's a lot of Sturm and Drang for not much.
Yeah, I don't necessarily get super impassioned by it, but my eyebrows do raise, especially in this case when I realized that Iga submitted, like, in the midst of going through the process, she, I believe, submitted 14 supplements that she was on, which for the average person, if I had to take 14 supplements like a day or a week, I would just not be a happy camper. But she did not include the melatonin, which you can look at as just like a human oversight. But if your eyebrow really goes up, you can go like, well, how come all 14 of those were counted, but not that one that just so happened to be contaminated? And like I mentioned earlier, me being best friends with WADA, me and WADA are really here now. I took a gander on the list of substances. Again, not to wade too deep into conspiracy theories because I definitely want to move on. But the likelihood that your supplement would be contaminated is kind of not astronomically high, but then also contaminated with this very specific substance that other athletes in other sports have tested positive for. So it's not the hardest thing in the world to digest, but it does kind of give me, it's like cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving. It's like, I'll eat it. Maybe, sorry for cranberry lovers out there. I'll eat it, but like in small doses.
We're doping apologists on one hand and cranberry haters on the other. What else can we get into? What other kind of trouble can we stir up here?
Well, I like my mac and cheese, so it's okay.
I would say I don't necessarily. I think I care. I think I care about having a clean sport, but I'm not naive to the fact that there's always going to be a percentage of people that are looking to gain an edge one way or another, and drugs are a part of that. But on the other hand, I agree with Caitlin. I think tennis is a unique sport in that way, where first of all, you're not punching someone or physically, going head to head with someone where you could seriously cause someone physical injury or harm. I think that's a huge risk factor in other sports. I also think, if we look at sports like sprinting, where there's really one element there, and you can gain a significant edge of 1% could make the difference between a gold medal and last place. And I also think, again, given the international nature of this sport, it is so difficult to travel from country to country and have some sort of intricate, well thought through drug, doping protocol. And on top of that, there's no off season. A lot of the time in these sports where there are off seasons and you have one section or team that gets caught for doping because the 3 months that they were off, they did a cycle. And in tennis, you just don't have the opportunity to do that. So the reality is, what are they gaining from taking something that's in and out of your system so quickly, given how regularly that they're tested? I just don't believe that it's giving, somebody such of an edge to reach a world number one or to win a Grand Slam. But at the end of the day, I'm not, a professional tennis player who's fighting for the number one spot and fighting for a Grand Slam, and we don't really know, what that 1-2% difference could offer somebody in those key moments and how it impacts them, unless we're looking for that edge. So it's really hard to tell, but I would say I don't agree in the fact that I do care that the sport has a clean reputation, and I want there to be stiff repercussions for people who have bad intentions.
Is 1 month stiff enough in this case, you think?
I mean, I believe her alibi, and I do believe her story. I think that these things can happen. It sounds like it was really rare. If I take the facts on hand for what they are, then a month seems fair. I don't think she should serve it in the off season, and I think that's unfair. But there seems to be no rules as to when the ban applies. So that's another challenging part of the process or system that I think needs to be better thought through.
Yeah, maybe the ITIA thinks time is time and doesn't really take into contact fact that like she doesn't even have any options to play in the month of December really until we get to Brisbane. So
Exactly.
But I
Yeah.
think we've discussed that case a little bit better. I'm sure things will be coming out the more we get deeper into 2025. But before any